1, 2, 3. The ref bump really didn't help this match. They should have just made this a weapons match, some form of a match with a stipulation. But Trinity won, still solidifying herself as champion, and I'm expecting a mixed tag team match with Eddie and Alicia taking on Trinity and Kazarian, because I don't believe Tracy wrestles anymore, and she doesn't need to. We got the good news. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. It is Saturday, September 16th, and you know what that means. It is time for the High Risk Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, the most electrifying podcaster in all of podcasterdom. I guess that works. Jeremy Pierce, welcome, one and all. You know you can check me out on the socials, Charismatic Creations on Facebook and YouTube, Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram, the 215 spelled out on Twitter, and of course, always coffee, Patreon. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. I am very, very close to getting the first step of monetization. I'm close to getting money, y'all, and I would like your help. But today's show, you know, we are in the month of Impact, and in no particular order, we're going to look at the greatest matches in Impact history. I cannot wait to go over this list with you all, but for now, you know what's next, so just go on and hit my music. Y'all know what's going on. You know what it's hitting for. You know how we do. Today's list, well, it is the 5 best gimmick matches in Impact Wrestling history. And we're starting with number 5, the King of the Mountain match. Now, what is the King of the Mountain match? It's essentially a reverse ladder match with some other things thrown in. So how to describe it? So yes, it's a ladder match. Yes, it involves multiple people, and essentially you have to hang the belt or briefcase at the top of the ladder, but there's something else. There's another way to go about this. So the competitors start out as ineligible, which means you can fight in the match, but you can't win it. You become eligible by making someone submit or by pinning them. Then that person you pinned or submitted goes into a penalty box for 2 minutes, essentially taking them out of the match. And there can be more than one person in the cage. And a lot of stuff happens in this cage. Form alliances, you can fight. And once you become eligible, you could then hang whatever at the top of the ladder. That's the King of the Mountain match. There have been 12 King of the Mountain matches, and most recently we had the first ever Queen of the Mountain match taking place last year. So it's really good. It's really dope. And if you want to know who has the most wins in the King of the Mountain match, of course, it's Jeff Jarrett. Next up, we have the Full Metal Mayhem match. And essentially, the Full Metal Mayhem match is a tables, ladders, and chairs match. That's what it is. That's what the Full Metal Mayhem match is in Impact Wrestling. It is great. We don't need to do anything different. They don't really do anything different. It's a TLC match. There have been 5. Actually, no, there have been more than 5. There have been 17 Full Metal Mayhem matches in Impact's history, with the most recent being Josh Alexander defeating Bully Ray. Do you know who has the most wins in a Full Metal Mayhem match? That would be Bully Ray. Number 3, this is a relatively new concept and new match that Impact has introduced. It is the 8 8-4-1 match. Now, what is an 8-4-1 match? The 8-4-1 match is essentially an 8-man tag team match, 4-on-4. Then, whatever winning team wins, they face each other in a fatal 4-way as soon as the match is over. So, the most recent, we've had one so far, took place earlier this year, and it involved the team of Bully Ray, Jonathan Gresham, Heath, and Nick Aldis taking on Moose, Speedball Mike Bailey, PCO, and Rich Swann. This happened at Against All Odds. And so after the 8-man tag match, you move down to the fatal 4-way match. Then you move down to the one winner. So after the fatal 4-way, the winner goes to Slammiversary to face the champion. This was good, and the winner of the last one was, I believe it was Nick Aldis. Yes, it was Nick Aldis. So his team won. So he, Bully Ray, Heath, and Jonathan Gresham faced each other. Nick Aldis won to go on and face the champion. Next up, we have the Monsters Ball match. Now, the Monsters Ball match is such a weird, crazy concept. So what is the Monsters Ball match, right? So the Monsters Ball match involves this is the first thing, right? This is the first thing for the Monsters Ball match. The participants are locked away for, I believe, 24 hours in a room with no lights, no food, no water. It is used to induce extreme feelings of aggression in the competitors. Once they're released, they face each other in a simple no DQ match. That's it. But even though it's a no DQ match, because of the lock away, right there, it becomes much more aggressive. And this is one of Impact's signature matches. There have been 56 Monsters Ball matches, with the most recent taking place this past year on Impact as Trey Miguel defeated Crazy Steven. It was for the X Division Championship. And it's very, very obvious who not only has appeared in the most Monsters Ball matches, but who's also won the most matches. And it's very, very obvious. It's Abyss. It's Abyss. Why would it not be Abyss? And lastly, number one, of course, you know, the greatest Impact gimmick match, none other than the Ultimate X match. The Ultimate X match is a staple of Impact Wrestling. It is essentially a match where there are 4 pillars, and there are 2 cables that hang from the metal pillars. They form an X, right? And the match usually involves 3 or more people. The X is 15 feet above the ring, and you essentially have to just climb over the cables and grab the X. And it usually involves, those Ultimate X match usually involves the X Division Championship. There have been rare occasions where the Ultimate X match hasn't featured the X Division Championship. More often than not, if it's not the X Division Championship, it's the Tag Team Championships. I don't even think the World Championship has been defended in an Ultimate X match. And there have been 50 Ultimate X matches, with the most recent taking place at Impact 1000. We don't know the participants of that, but we do know who's won the most. This man has not only won the most, but he's been in the most, and that is Chris Sabin. And what's really, we had our first ever women's Ultimate X match last year featuring Tasha Steelz, Alicia Edwards, Chelsea Green, Jordan Grace, Lady Frost, and Rosemary. I wonder what Lady Frost is doing. I know she's been in Ring of Honor, but I want more for Lady Frost. But yeah, those are the 5 best gimmick matches in Impact Wrestling history. We'll be right back. And seeing as how we're talking about matches and we're talking about gimmick matches, we just finished talking about gimmick matches, but we got to talk about one of the king of gimmick matches in Impact Wrestling. That is none other than Joseph Park himself. Abyss. This man is a staple, is a mainstay of Impact Wrestling, and it's very, very tough when we get to the Mount Rushmore of Impact that he might just miss out ever so slightly. But Abyss has pretty much wrestled the majority of his wrestling career in Impact Wrestling from 2002 up until 2019. He wrestled as Abyss. He had his other alter ego as Joseph Park, a funny, nerdy lawyer. It was really, really good. Abyss is so intrinsically entwined into the fabric of Impact that you can't not talk about him. From the Monsters Ball matches to being managed by James Mitchell to doing everything from his feud with Stevie and Matt Morgan, being in factions and being able to go with the flow. The man has evolved time and again. Now he's currently working for the WWE as a backstage producer and agent, and more power to him. This man is, for all intents and purposes, he is a legend. He doesn't get talked about enough as being a legend in professional wrestling, but Abyss deserves his flowers. The Black Hole Slam and as his finisher. And you know what's crazy? Here's what's really, really crazy about Abyss. He only has one world championship to his reign. He won the NWA World Championship one time. He never won the Impact or TNA World Championship. That's kind of crazy to think. He's been randomly an X Division champion. He's been a tag team champion. He's been a TV champion. But he doesn't have a lot of gold to him. But that shows you how great he's been. That shows you how important he's been to Impact, where he's one of those people that never needed a championship and still was able to put on a great show. So show Abyss some love and give Joseph Park his flowers. We'll be right back. Here we are, the piece de resistance. Today's show, something I am really, really excited to talk about. The greatest matches in Impact Wrestling history. They've put on such a good number of matches, that have ultimately really, really stood the test of time. And I know that sometimes Impact flies under the radar, but Impact, they're just here to stay. They're not going anywhere. And I would be remiss not to talk about them. So, without further ado, these are the best matches in Impact Wrestling history, and these are in no particular order. Okay, so we have first up Gail Kim versus Taryn Terrell on Impact in a ladder match. Now, you're wondering, Taryn Terrell? Yeah, Taryn. Taryn actually shows up on this list twice. Gail shows up multiple times because it's Gail freaking Kim. But Taryn, after leaving the WWE, really, really grew as a performer. You can say that a lot. You can say that a lot about a lot of performers. So she gets to Impact and she's growing, right? And Gail was in her heel role. And it was about putting Taryn Terrell down. But Taryn wasn't for it. So they had themselves an awesome ladder match, which Gail won. And it's a classic. And it doesn't get talked about enough because it's definitely one of the best knockouts matches. It's one of the best Impact matches in general. Because not only is Gail great, but Taryn exceeded expectations. And then in the rematch, wow. Just wow. Taryn and Gail showed up and showed out. This was their last knockout standing match, which took place at Slammiversary, and it was everything that you could hope for. These two women put on a show. And remember, this all started with Gail picking on Taryn as her time as a referee. This last knockout standing match was so fun, with the crowning moment being Taryn hitting a cutter off of the entranceway. Sometimes, and I hate this about wrestling, they'll have the entrance ramp from the stage go directly to the ring. But Taryn used it. I mean, earlier in the match, Gail had her locked in a figure 4 on the steel ring post. But I didn't expect anything less from this because Impact, like I've said time and again, that these women have brought in the women's revolution. They were treated to something awesome and were allowed to just show up and show out. And Gail Kim, being the legend that she is, helped truly elevate Taryn Terrell. Next up, we have the final deletion. Y'all remember the final deletion? The final deletion, part of the total nonstop deletion, as you want to call it. It was the nonstop deletion was the event. The final deletion. Matt and Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy's Broken Universe. It's just weird. It's just weird. Vanguard won, the drone, and Rebby Hardy makes an appearance, and her dad makes an appearance, and Little Max, and I don't know. It's so hard to describe. It's so weird what happens, but it works because Impact can do comedy, Impact can do serious, Impact can do weird. And that's what makes them great. The final deletion is such an intrinsic part of wrestling history that its effect will be felt out for a very, very long time. Next up, we got Genesis 2010, I believe, January 4th. Kurt Angle, AJ Styles for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. And of course, you know, at some point, AJ Styles and Kurt Angle were going to make this list. It's two of the greatest of all time. And what's so intriguing about this match is that Ric Flair was involved. This is kind of part of the dark days of Impact, but we'll talk about that in another show. Kurt and AJ put on a clinic, and what's so unique about this match is that AJ turned heel, aligning himself with Ric Flair, and then we got the Fortune faction and a lot of crap. But this match was a damn near 30-minute classic, and these two, I really don't know what to say. You just have to watch it. These two are awesome. Really, they're really awesome. Next up, we've got a match that happened actually more recently: Josh Alexander versus Speedball Mike Bailey. And yeah, remember that match on Raw many moons ago between John Cena and Shawn Michaels that went an hour? That wasn't an Iron Man match, and they just decided to wrestle for an hour. Yeah, this is what happened here. These two put on a show. Technical wrestling at its finest, and seeing Josh Alexander become the dominant champion that he is, and we got this for free on TV, and this match helped elevate Speedball Mike Bailey. Bailey was already great, but this showed you just truly how great he is. And he's proven that time and again since then. This match came so far out of left field that it caught many by surprise. And then when you took time to sit down and watch, like, oh man, we're looking at something absolutely amazing. Next up, Slammiversary 2019. Taya Valkyrie, Havoc, Rosemary, Su Yung, Monsters Ball. The thing I love about Impact is that they continue to push the envelope, and they continue to let the woman evolve. They continue to let the woman grow and be better and show what they can do. And it's no different here with this Monster Ball match. And it makes sense because at that time, Talia, Havoc, Rosemary, Su Yung were the foremost hardcore wrestlers on that roster. You know what I mean? And we have other women like Jordan Grace and Mickey and Deonna Purrazzo, but these four women are known for being hardcore, especially Taya, especially Havoc. And man, finally allowing the women to be in this match, to give them that opportunity, it's nothing like it, man. They showed up, they showed out. This match is universally praised. This match is everything that you want from women's wrestling, and I couldn't say a bad thing about it. Next up, you know where we're at. Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Turning Point 2005. Again, AJ Styles, but now Samoa Joe. And this right here was part of the X Division. This was what was built for Impact, TNA. The X Division carried the company so much, and AJ and Joe were mainstays of the X Division. This actually might be their best encounter, their best one-on-one encounter ever. Joe had came in after AJ, and we knew AJ, and he was already kind of a top star already in Impact. But Joe, this right here solidified Joe. Getting a win over the biggest star in Impact at the time, there's nothing like it. And the X Division I tell you, it's what we need from Impact. Next up, Beer Money, Motor City Machine Guns, in the finale of their best of 5 match for the tag team championships. Is this right here? Listen, we've been talking all week about the tag teams of Impact. This is the week of tag teams in Impact, and both of these teams have been mentioned. Beer Money, Motor City Machine Guns. What can I say? This was the 5th and deciding match where we were all tied up, and this was hands down the best match that they put on. It was an epic 2 out of 3 falls match. That was the 5th match. It was a 2 out of 3 falls match. And with the win by the Motor City Machine Guns, they solidified themselves as the best tag team probably in the industry at that time. And we're back to the knockouts with Mickie James, Jordynne Grace, 2023 Hard to Kill. And this was the title versus career match. Mickie was teasing retirement, and she was on that Ric Flair tour that whatever her last match was would be a wrap for her. And Mickie put her career on the line just to get a title shot, because she didn't want to call it quits, but something inside her felt like she needed to move on. And this match was awesome. Mickie is a legend, and she's been doing this for a long time. Jordynne Grace is slowly working her way to becoming a legend. And even with everything going down on the card, these two women rightfully earned the main event. These two women earned that spot. And it was such a joy and a triumph to see Mickie win and to become Knockouts champion one more time and to continue her career. Go and watch it and then tell me that Impact doesn't have the best women's division in all of wrestling. Tell me that. Let me know if you can safely say that. Next up, at some point we were going to get to it, right? We were going to get to it. America's Most Wanted, Triple X, Turning Point, 2004, the cage match. Not only the cage match, but that moment in the cage match. So this was the second ever monthly 3-hour TNA pay-per-view. Remember they were doing monthly pay-per-views? That's how you got to watch TNA. And the main event was this. The show was actually Randy Savage's first and only match after WCW. So you figured that maybe, just maybe, he would be the main event. But no, he wasn't. First of all, the main event was this. The 6 Sides of Steel. And what a match it was. And you know the moment I'm talking about. Primetime Elix Skipper walking the cage. And remember, during the stipulation for this match was the losing team had to disband, which means you had to break up. So Primetime Elix Skipper broke out. The biggest moment, this might be the greatest moment in Impact history. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Maybe another show. Tightrope in the cage. Tightrope walking the cage and hitting a Hurricanrana. I still remember the call. This was Impact. This was Impact. Guess who's on this list once again? And I'm going to go back to back. Back to back. Gail Kim and Awesome Kong. First Final Resolution 2008. Gail Kim and Awesome Kong are Impact Wrestling. They are women's wrestling. This was a no DQ match for the Knockouts Championship. The Knockouts division was pretty much built around these two women. They've become great rivals. They've become even better friends. This legendary match had the dominant Awesome Kong face Gail Kim, and Gail Kim was fighting from behind. And it was like no matter what, Gail couldn't catch a break. But in the end, Gail was able to defeat Kong to become the Knockouts champion. Something really, really exciting. Just awesome. Just only a few short days later, these women had a rematch. So Final Resolution was that Sunday, January 6th. January 10th, that Thursday, they had a rematch for the Knockouts Championship. And Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, once again, these two put on a show. So much to the point that you couldn't deny them. You couldn't deny Gail Kim. You couldn't deny Awesome Kong. This was women's wrestling. They were here to stay. And I genuinely don't know where women's wrestling would be without Gail Kim and Awesome Kong. Seriously. You all might not understand just how important Impact Wrestling is and TNA Wrestling is to the history of women's wrestling and the evolution of women's wrestling here in America. Now, how many of you remember this? Slammiversary 2007. This was the third Slammiversary. King of the Mountain. We got a new championship belt debuting, the TNA World Championship, and we had a King of the Mountain match. Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Christian Cage, and the Wildcat, Chris Harris. This was the infancy of TNA, and we really got something special. This showed what Impact at that time TNA Wrestling was, what it is, and everybody got time to shine. Even Chris Harris, because you would see the names of Kurt Angle, Christian Cage, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, and think, okay, that makes sense. And then there was Chris Harris, but Chris Harris was a big part and big mainstay of Impact Wrestling. Next up, Kurt Angle, Mr. Anderson, Lockdown 2010. Now, steel cage matches. They're very special. They are near and dear to our hearts. And this one really is slept on. because again, here's Kurt Angle, but Mr. Anderson, who actually became a really, really big part of Impact and TNA at the time. Anderson wasn't a great worker, but sometimes when you're in the ring with someone great, you have to step up. And I'll give you a prime example in acting. When you're in a movie with Denzel, bring your A game. Bring your A game. And this felt like an old school cage match, but with modern moves added, and it brought some really, really excitement. And one thing we remember, that we very, 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 very remember, is Kurt Angle hitting the moonsault off of the cage, and he would dive into this just every single time with reckless abandon. Kurt Angle would do it. And lastly, what many consider probably the greatest match in Impact history, but I digress. That's why there's no order in this list. AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, Unbreakable, 2005 for the X Division Championship. Like I've told you time and again, the X Division was a mainstay of Impact. Impact was built on the backs. TNA was built on the backs of the X Division and three men that are part of the bloodstream of Impact, but are the bloodstream of TNA, put on a fantastic, fantastic show. And yes, this is still viewed as the greatest match in Impact history. It's the first ever Impact match to receive a 5-star rating from Dave Meltzer. And when you watch it, you know why. It's an awesome match with awesome competitors. Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. You know what the first funny thing is? It's so weird seeing a younger, kind of slightly smaller Samoa Joe, because he looks so much more badass now as he's gotten older. Impact Wrestling has given us so much. They've given us so much, and we can't deny them. We can't deny their importance. We can't deny what they've brought to the table, and that they're still here. These are phenomenal matches, and I got a little bit of everything. Tag team, multi-man, one-on-ones, the knockouts. Impact knows what they're doing, and we've got past the dark times, and we're now onto the good times, and I hope you all can check them out more. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Next week's episode, the dark times of Impact Wrestling. Yeah, we're going to talk about, you know what we're going to talk about. But we're still going to try to have some fun with it. Be on the lookout for the new list coming out this week. Check out the socials, Charismatic Creations on Facebook and YouTube, Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram, the 215 on Twitter. And as always, Xylee Bailey, Aladone, Willow Nightingale, Wendy Chu, and Gigi Dolan. Holla at your boy. Peace.